We do our best. Yes, absolutely. Our focus is more on internships on the job side.
Gotcha.
We do a program in the summer with Youth Leadership Service Corps because we have more time than in the winter, where young people are placed with representatives in the State House, at Tufts Medical Center, Spalding Rehab, Brigham and Women's, different places where they can learn how to work with a supervisor, how to do a job.
Yeah.
Now, we're careful about where we send kids because when you're in high school, if you really want to work at Stop and Shop, and nothing against Stop and Shop, that's fine, we will help you, absolutely. But there's a part of it where we would prefer you stay with our stipend program because we really want you to do well in school and find the next step for yourself. So get your job in the summer, you get an extra job, but we'd really rather have you take advantage of the internships until you're ready to move on. And at that point, yes, of course, we'll help you with a job. And we do help with the college process ourselves, but also with many partners. But I want to say not every young person feels that college is right for them.
You know, interesting that you should say that. I'm old enough to remember, I grew up in New York City, where you would have trade schools.
Right.
That really principally focused on vocational education
Right.
because not everybody wanted to go to an academic school to further their education or to get a trade where they can take care of themselves and their families. And I think that's something that is beginning to cycle back. I think it needs to come back a lot quicker than it is. In fact, we do a lot of vocational education in the Sheriff's Department. We found that, so listen, we have 3 tracks of education. We have the adult ed, which leads to the GED, and then we have the special ed. But we found that with the vocational education, with a population like ours whose mean kind of education proficiency level is 5th or 6th grade in reading or math, that if we taught folks how to lay a floor, hang a wall, hang a window, if we taught them urban farming or the culinary arts, they really gravitated to that and wrapped their arms around that. And you know, I don't know the last time you've had a plumber or a carpenter at your house. They make a good wage.
Absolutely.
You know, and you can absolutely take care of yourself that way. So I'm glad to hear that it's not just all, although academics is very important.
Well, it's important, and we put it out there,
yep.
and we do the college visits, but at some point, some people are going to want to work with their hands or do something else, and we want to adapt to what's going to make each young person feel most successful, most confident, and move them down the road. There's nothing to say you can't become a plumber and decide 5 years from now, you know what, I want to go back and get a degree. Nothing to stop in this world.
Interestingly enough, you probably know that when folks go to an incarceration facility, they generally segregate into their racial groups. Well, in this program, you know, you have black and white, Asian and Spanish. They all work together in the classroom. And we keep the classes small, about 15 people. But a byproduct, an unforeseen byproduct, is once they go back to the units, they still communicate with one another. You know, because some of these folks actually have been either carpenters or landscapers or plumbers, and so their ability is a little bit further afield than some of their colleagues in the classes. And so they continue to work with one another, which we found to be very, very interesting. You know, let me ask you about peer-to-peer interaction.
I was going to say, because we use a similar thing, because we're a very open program. And so if you live in the community and you are Latino or African American or Somalian or Asian or white, it doesn't matter. You are welcome here. Now, that means we have a lot of work to do every day because until people get to know each other and trust each other and begin that talk from being in small classes or small groups, you have to work with it. And depending where we are, we may get good rapport among the people there, and then when they leave, the cultural pressures are to segregate back into where you are.
Exactly.
And so it's a constant. We have no silver bullet or whatever for that. We are constantly working on that. It's talking, it's developing tools, it's being confident, and eventually knowing that the world is bigger than your neighborhoods are wonderful, but they're not the whole world. And the bigger the world gets, the more likely it is that people are going to be able to get along because this is not their only thing.
So describe for us the feeling that you and your staff get when you have a kid that may have been sheltered, shy to themselves, they go through the leadership program, and you can see over a period of weeks, months, that they are now blossoming and they're coming out of their shell and they are becoming the leaders that you would hope that they become. Talk to me about that.
What can I say? It says all the work to raise the money, to do this work, to work too many hours suddenly becomes worth it. It is worth it, absolutely. And that does happen. You know, a lot of times, and I'm glad you bring that up, because a lot of times we're working with the young people who act out.
Uh-huh.
And it's a very healthy way to deal with what is an insane set of circumstances. But there are also, you're right, so many of the shy, quiet ones, and we try to pay attention because they don't get that attention.
That's right.
So thanks for raising that.
Do you have more boys than girls, or an equal number?
It varies back and forth with any year, but it's close to equal.
Oh, okay. Talk to me about the Explorers Academy.
The Explorers Academy is the program for middle school, and we give it that name because it's kind of exciting. Now, in Explorers Academy, we do focus more on the academics, but also on fun and personal growth and field trips. We don't do the stipend program for the middle school.
Okay.
We use circles, a lot of talking, a lot of, middle school, as you know, is that tricky time where young people who may have done really well in elementary school
Right.
suddenly
That's
may be
right.
going to hit the skids for a lot of reasons.
Right.
And we do our best to be a place where young people can talk, can prepare themselves, can move on to the next level. And we also do a lot of the horizon broadening. Because again, if you're going to do that, you have to know you can go camping. You can. There's another world. When, to use an example, some of our Latino and African American teens went for their first trip camping in New Hampshire, and they went to a store to buy a few snacks before we got there. It's like, all those white people are talking about us. I bet they think we're going to steal.
Right. Right.
Well, it's a teaching moment again. Do you think they really are? Why do we think that? What's happened, that makes you think that? Because they could well be.
Right.
Or could they be thinking, wow, look at these wonderful young people
Right,
who came in
right.
here to buy Hostess Twinkies to go on their camping trip.
Exactly.
But it's a chance to talk about it and to get more comfortable with being in a new environment. If we don't do that, that's the heart of it. Talking and working together and hitting new levels.
And I can relate to that. At the age of 6, growing up in New York City, there was a program, I think it's still in effect, called the Fresh Air Fund. It's a summer camp
Yeah, I remember
where they
that.
take inner city kids and they send them out to the suburbs or to farms and so on and so
Right.
forth. And I had white teachers, but I grew up with African American and Latin kids. And so my mom is sending me away to Pennsylvania for 2 weeks to go and live with a family, a German family who had a farm. And it was a totally different experience. I'd seen farms on TV, I've seen livestock on TV.
Right.
And I remember when we got off the bus, when we arrived in Pennsylvania, we were in this big shopping mall parking lot. And there were all of these white families and all of these brown kids on the bus. And you got off the bus and they would call your name and call the family's name. And I remember I was hysterical because I didn't want to be there. I was uncomfortable.
Right.
And
Very
so,
scary.
Yeah, and it was Dave and Sally Fritz. And they said, look, and they had a young boy my age and one a little bit younger. And they said, listen, what we'll do is this. Stay for the night. And if you don't want to stay anymore, then we'll send you back home tomorrow. And we got to their house, and the grandfather at that point was still living with them. And he was on a tractor. And he said, hey, you've been on the tractor? I said, no, I'll hop up on the tractor and we go do the whole field thing. And then we go to the cows and the pigs and the chickens. And I remember we sat down for dinner and Sally said, so, do you want to unpack and stay or do you want to go home tomorrow? And I said, this is home.
Yeah.
I'm having a blast. But it was just, being in a new environment and getting comfortable with it and having that nurturing care that you're talking about that made all the difference.
Right.
And but what I was going to say is, when I got back to New York City, I had another reference point about
Yes,
people.
yes.
Which
That's exactly.
I think was it was good for me and beneficial for me because at the end of the day, no matter the color of the skin, people were people.
That's right. And I think one of the things we don't talk about in youth work a lot, and perhaps we should more, is there's two parts to this. There are these wonderful young people who have a chance if we can help open up the world and help them navigate it. This is true of every young person everywhere.
Right.
And we're just working with young people who've missed that chance. But the other part of it is, it's got to be us, the adults. What's the world we want to see?
Right.
I want to see a world where we're all celebrating each other and these differences are our strengths. And if we don't want to see that, how are we doing this with the young people?
Yeah,
Yes?
That's right. Listen, Niki, we're out of time. We can go on
We could.
forever. So we have to have you back on the show.
I would love to.
Because I'm really wildly fascinated about what your organization does, and we want our audience to hear more about that. So thank you so much for coming on. Quickly, if folks want to get some information about your organization.
Go to our website, www.missionsafe.org, or you can email us at info@missionsafe.org. tenniseducation.org,
Beautiful.
or you can call at 617-592-7608.
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you
on.
very much.
We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, look, folks, we're going to go to a break, and on the other side, we've got Ned Ames here from Tenacity. And if you're in the city,
Wonderful
you've seen,
program.
yes, you've seen their banners all over the inner city, and it's a program that teaches kids not only tennis, but they really focus on academics also. So go do what you got to do, come on back, and please do stay tuned.